special business meeting to order, and we'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and ask Deputy Mayor Denny, please lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Denny. Next thing on the agenda is the consider the approval of the minutes of the August 16th, 2012 council meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
So moved by Deputy Mayor Denning, seconded by Mr. Schock. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Next thing is acceptance of written citizens petitions. If you want to have any public comments on any agenda items or non-agenda items, please get the papers up to Elizabeth, and we'll get to them when we get to that part of the meeting. Next thing on the agenda, City Manager's report. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You have my report included in your packet, as well as additional information, which I'll be more than happy to answer, as will staff.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Is there any questions or discussion to the manager?
I would like to say I'm glad the lights are finally up. I do have. Are they
talking about the
Airway? Are they going to add concrete across that area that used to be the entrance?
No. The way that will work is it will be posted for right turn exit only from both the old location leaving Airway Shopping Center, as well as right turn only leaving the Goodyear facility. That will be striped only from the standpoint that the maintenance, the legal requirement to obey the law is still the same. The maintenance and costs thereof to put in the concrete outweigh its ability to actually influence the flow of traffic.
Okay, well, it's just that, I mean, I know it was in the first few days, but I rode my motorcycle through there the other day, and somebody just pulled right up in front of me and made the left turn. I hope the chief will keep an eye on that, because I really think that I think possibly once folks get used to it being the new way, it may go away, but I think we need to keep a really close eye on that, because I'm afraid that we're going to have some major injuries there if we don't do something, whether it's, I'd be happy with the plastic crossing barricades for a while, just so people understood that they're not supposed to go through there anymore, because I think it's a safety issue looking to happen.
And we've talked about, if the need arises, to put in the delineators. You might think of the Stebbins exit on Valley. They've got the flexible plastic poles there. We've talked about that if the situation dictates, we have the ability to put those in. Those are actually surface mounted, so we have the ability to add those after the fact. Sometimes they're effective, sometimes they're not. We'll have to wait and see. But in the event that does, traffic patterns do not change there. We have acknowledged the fact that that may be a possible.
We can plant some trees. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
Mr. Smith, close question?
Well, at that intersection we're talking about, what would it cost to put cement in there to make that a right turn only coming out of the shopping center and a right turn only going in and heading northbound on Woodman?
You're talking a few $1,000s.
Yeah. That would probably look better than those poles you're talking about. And, right that way.
We'll have to keep our eyes on that. Very good.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments? I just have one. Mrs. Gray, Linda Gray, is leaving us. That's such a shame. She is moving to Kettering. I knew that was coming, but she's certainly been a big part of our city. So we're going to miss her greatly. And you had in your report that we need to formally accept Mrs. Gray's resignation. to enable the clerk to begin advertising for this vacancy, so that means we should do that
If you can do so tonight by motion.
by motion,
Yes,
okay?
Make a motion to accept her resignation with regrets.
With regrets.
With regrets.
Thank you. All right, is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved by Deputy Mayor Denning, second by Mr. Schock with regrets that we formally accept Mrs. Gray's resignation from the PZ. Okay, all right, any discussion on the motion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Okay, any other questions for the manager's report? Seeing none, we'll go on to public comments, and there are no one's asked to talk about agenda items, so we'll move into resolutions. First resolution is resolution number 12R1707. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This resolution is to authorize ODOT to perform bridge inspections for two bridges on Harshman Woodman.
Is there,
So moved.
been moved by Mr. Smith, is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Second by Mr. Schock, is that what I heard? Oh, by the Deputy Mayor Denning, thank you. So are there any questions or concerns about the resolution? Okay, now this bridge inspection is for the Harshman Road Bridge over Springfield Street. Is there a reason why I mean, I see it for the bikeway, but there's not a concern or?
As I understand it, Mr. Miller, correct me if I'm wrong, sir, as I understand it, there are funds available within ODOT's budget this year that have not been allocated for other purposes, and so they have graciously offered to utilize those funds for these two specific inspections. Is that
Yes, sir,
correct?
that is absolutely
Correct, okay, thank you.
And they're gonna pay
Okay, any other questions?
They're gonna pay 100% of the cost to inspect those.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes those freebies can be expensive.
And we have to have these bridge inspected so often anyway, right?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
This will meet that requirement, so we'll be good for another however many years that we're allowed.
On those specific bridges, yes, I believe we're on a 3-year rotation, Mr. Miller, for all bridges.
That is correct.
So they all fall into one scope, so every 4th year
Cool.
they're evaluated.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Next resolution is resolution number 12R1708. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This resolution is to authorize the city to enter into a generation supply agreement with DPL Energy.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Mr. Schock, second by Deputy Mayor Denning. Is there any discussion on the motion? So from what you've said here is this is what we've done in the past.
Well, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Several communities through the Miami Valley Cable Council cooperatively negotiated a service agreement with DPL. We were not part of that at the time. We were kind of in an off cycle of the last contract that the city negotiated with DPL, put us on the same cycle with the Cable Council communities. So our contract is expiring. I contacted NBCC and asked them if the city can be incorporated into their existing agreement. So right now, there are 2 contracts, one for general service, so the electricity here, the electricity at Station 6, the sign shop, that is what this covers. In 2015, the streetlight contract will be renegotiated. So we will be part of those renegotiation contracts in 2015, and we are also moving into that existing contract at the start of this year as well. So we'll see savings there on both accounts, but we are not required to enter into any specific agreement related to the streetlights, only for the electric generation and supply to our operating facilities.
And just for clarification, this has nothing to do with any of the residents' DP&L bill or
That is correct.
their selection of whoever they want
That is
as
correct.
their generation supply person. It's just the city. Just wanted to clear that up. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Next resolution is resolution number 12R1709, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Pursuant to council's request, this legislation is brought forward to authorize temporary signs within the right of way on behalf of the Lily Creek Citizens Group.
Okay,
moved.
thank you.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Schock, seconded by Mr. Denning. I did get an email from the group saying they're not really, going to be doing anything in the near future as far as they know, so we can't expect any signs.
Mr. Mayor, I got an email stating that they were going to show a movie, something about Why Are We Spring?
But they said they were just gonna advertise through the emails and things. It wasn't, they weren't gonna put a sign up for that, was my understanding. So there'd be no sign for that. So, we're hoping they will, let us know. Okay, is there
Mr.
any
Mayor?
discussion?
Yes. How come there's no locations posted with this resolution?
Council asked at the last meeting that legislation be brought forward specific to the request. Their initial request did not contain that information. So that information was not included in the legislation.
And we don't necessarily always get locations. We prefer it, but we don't always get it. And this legislation basically mirrors what they asked for, which was, and they're not gonna put anything up 10 days prior, they're gonna have it done the day after. I think this meets all the requirements that we need.
Well, they do list the locations on in their letter.
Yes, they did.
The letter.
The last
Okay.
paragraph, that they list the location.
So I just wondered why it wasn't attached to the.
The only problem I have with it is, it's not for a specific reason, it's just a broad-based approval for them to put a sign out anytime they wanna have a meeting.
That's what it is.
So,
That's what
That's what we're up against on it. So.
And also too, I think we should also put a expiration date on this. It's only good for 1 year or 6 months or whatever, some kind of expiration date. When I start looking at this resolution, that's one of the things that came to mind.
Okay, do you wanna add that to the motion?
I want to see what everybody else feels about it before I add anything to the motion.
I'm not so excited about putting the signs, giving the ability to put the signs out without a purpose or a cause in mind. But I like the idea of putting, if we was to approve this, I like the idea of putting a time limit, maybe 3 months. Something along those lines, that would take us through the end of the year.
Okay?
All that means is they have to come back for approval again? What?
Well, right now, there's really no purpose to their request of putting signs out there. And this video they wanna show, Why Are We Spraying? We don't spray here in the city of Riverside, do we?
It's information for our citizens, it's positive for our citizens. It's a way for them to get out that they wanna show this movie. They may not, even putting out the signs, they may only end up with 5 people there, they may end up with 500 people there. All we're saying is, you can put up your signs so that people can so that our citizens can have the information, so that if they choose to go to that movie or whatever they're trying to do, they're allowed to do it, and all we're saying is, you can get your information.
And they're gonna take it down.
And they're gonna have it out for 10 days, and they're gonna take it down, and they may do this 3 or 4 times during the year,
May not do it.
and they may not do it at all. All we're saying is, it's okay to put them in the right of way for 10 days.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Any other discussion? Yes, Mr. Kirk.
For this resolution and for item F, I'll be taking my same position I've been taking over the last several months regarding signs in the right of way, and that is, I won't be voting on this one way or the other. Again, the law director told us what we're doing is improper. I'm not going to vote on something our legal counsel told us is improper, so I won't be voting on this.
Ms. Kirk, any other discussion?
Well, Mr. Kirk, if you're not going to vote, will you recuse yourself and leave the room so that it does not impact the quorum? Because the last time that chose not to vote, it impacted the quorum. And it ended up being a no vote, which let it fail. So you might as well either vote or recuse yourself.
Why, it's open meeting.
I call the question.
Okay. Question's been called. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Well, let's do that.
Roll call
What do
vote,
you mean
please.
call the
Let's-
question?
I'm sorry? Call the question means we want to end the discussion.
Yeah, he
Okay,
ended.
take a vote.
Yes. So at this point, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Campbell? No. Mr. Kirk?
Not voting?
Mr. Denning?
Yes.
Mr. Folk? Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Motion carried, is that correct?
Yes.
40.
Yes.
Okay. All right, next resolution is resolution number 12R1710. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This resolution is to authorize the city to enter into a job creation and retention grant with Chuck Evan and Associates.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Denning, second by Mr. Schock. Is there any discussion on the motion? The impact, it says, is 50% increased income tax refunded. Can you explain that for me, please?
Based on the language within the agreement, let me quote it for you specifically. Based on the total number of additional jobs that Mr. Evanhoe is required to attempt to add, he can receive 50%. The amount of the city job creation and retention grant payment shall be the lesser of 50% of any new income tax revenue or 0% of any retained income tax revenue. The total annual amount cannot exceed 10 years, and the total payout cannot exceed $50,000 over the term. And the agreement is for a 5-year term. Is that correct, Mr. Murray, that the term is for 5 years?
So far, he's created 7 jobs.
And he's required to create 10 over the course of the year.
So instead of paying 1.5% income tax, they pay 0.75.
On those new jobs and those new jobs, yes.
Can I ask what the income, the pay grade for those are, is? Do we know?
I do not have that number, Mr. Murray, do you?
We've got the range, they started low at 30 and go up to 120. Yeah.
These are software engineer jobs, and every time I buy his offices, the parking lot is full, which is awesome.
Sounds good.
He was supposed to invest 188,000. He's actually up to 276,000 now, and he's growing at a standard rate of about 25% a year. He's a very good commercial citizen of ours.
Yes.
All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Next resolution is resolution number 12R1711. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This resolution is to authorize changes to the Ohio Professional Firefighters Deferred Compensation Plan.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Schock, second by Deputy Mayor Denning. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Next resolution is resolution number 12R1712. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This resolution is to authorize the Riverside J.C.'s to place temporary signage within the right of way.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Schock, second by Mr. Denning. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, we will, like to do a roll call vote again.
Ms. Campbell? No. Mr. Kirk?
Not voting?
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Did you ask everybody?
Mr. Denning?
Yes.
Thank you very much, very good.
Real quick, what was Ms. Campbell's vote?
No.
No, okay.
Okay. Next resolution is resolution number 12R1713, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This resolution is to authorize an agreement between the City of Riverside and the Montgomery County Land Utilization Corporation.
Okay, is there a motion for the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Deputy Mayor Denning, second by Mr. Smith. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Next resolution is resolution number 12R1714, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This resolution is to authorize the sub-agreement between the city and the Montgomery County Land Reutilization Corporation with regards to the Moving Ohio Forward funds.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Schock, second by Mr. Denning. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, this is for demolition of,
There are 6 structures. I don't recall the
Saw them
specific
all.
addresses off the top of my head.
They're all there.
Aspen,
yeah, there, I've seen them on here, I know they're.
Valley, Parchment.
Might be back in the
Those are
Oh,
neighborhood stabilization phase 4.
I saw it.
Yeah, these are, the ones in the manager's report are related to CDBG funds, excess CDBG funds that we did not spend. That is a project that we are currently bidding now. Actually, we are preparing to bid, we award that.
Entering contract.
Entering full. Oh, look at that, it's the last resolution on the agenda tonight. That's what those properties are for. The Moving Ohio Forward project, that is the mortgage settlement money that was paid to the state, filtered to the county, and now to us. There are 6 additional properties on there. Mr. Murray, do you recall off the top of your head what those 6 addresses are?
Not exactly, no, but three of them, the owners have asked of us to tear those properties down, and they do have a commercial value after we tear those down. The other 3 have not been selected as of yet. We have until December 2013 to finish this up, so they'll be selected here shortly. We've got a long list of houses that qualify, and which ones are gonna be exactly on there, I don't wanna say right now.
And all the 30,000 is coming from the state.
It's 50/50, right, 50% from us and 50% from the state, that's right.
That's okay. All right, any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Next resolution is resolution number 12R1715, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This resolution is to authorize the city to enter into a right to sell contract with NAI regarding 5 acres in the center of Blight.
Is there a move?
Second.
Been moved by Deputy Mayor Denning, second by Mr. Schock. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Yes, I had a quick question. On reading the contract over on the, if the property is leased, we're to pay the NAI the full commission of 20 years, 10% of the rent of 20 years at the time of leasing the building,
Okay, Mr. Manager?
or leasing the property, I guess it is. Would that be in the event that the city owned the property? Or would that would be obligated by the owner of the building? It's kind of confusing because, we're agreeing to terms that,
Okay,
on a building that,
Isn't
we haven't sold yet, we haven't even built.
Mr. Manager, do you know the answer to that, or?
I do not. I'm going to defer to Mr. Murray.
What I understand is that if the land is leased, if you guys could clear that up for us, that'd be great. Russ?
I need to get the, one line of the contract signed.
Okay,
The property owner,
yeah, we wouldn't be the owner if we sell this out, but we may be if it's leased.
Okay, we're on,
Which line?
Oh, it's 73.
Yeah,
20 years paid in advance.
That would be on the ground lease, if the city chose to do that,
That would be a ground lease.
right, which could run 9,900, couple of hundred years or whatever, depending upon how it would be structured, but that would max out the term of responsibility for the city with us
Yeah.
as to a 20-year period.
Okay, so it wouldn't be based on square footage of a proposed building.
No, not direct.
Okay. All right, well, I feel better.
We want you to feel better.
Well, I was going off the numbers of a 65,000.
No, it was a very good
building,
question. No, it was-
$10 a square foot, 20 years.
Excellent question.
10%, you know, it's a lot.
10% is higher than, yeah.
Well,
I'm sure they'd accept it if you're willing to pay it.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
a little million here and there, don't worry about it.
Australian bound.
10%, wow. Okay, okay. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. Next resolution is resolution number 12R1716, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This resolution has authorized the city to enter into a contract with Cox Paving as the lowest and best bidder for the neighborhood stabilization. Part 2, Phase 3, I think it is.
So moved.
Been moved by Deputy Mayor Denning, is there a second?
Second?
Second by Mr. Smith, is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion's carried. And that concludes all the resolution and legislation that we have coming before us tonight. So we will now move into public comments and non-agenda items. No one has asked to do that, so we will move into council member comments. Any council member comments?
I'd like to welcome Chief Carpenter to his first council meeting. Hope it wasn't too boring for you.
Oh, by the way, it was short, this is a short one.
And this was a very short one.
Yeah.
So far.
But I think we've got a lot of good business taken care of, and I think we're taking care of the community as we should.
Any other discussion items or questions?
Yeah, I have several.
Yes, Mr.
First of all, the planning commission held their public hearing on the proposed changes to the zoning resolution, and there was an extremely large turnout, over 100 people. Planning commission has chosen to take comments under advisement and determine when they'll rule on it and forward to the council. But I would think in the meantime, because of the large turnout that showed up, the people that were interested in things such as will it affect their property taxes, and whatever other interests that they had, it might be beneficial for us to have community presentations so that people have a chance to come and hear a little bit more about just what this thing is and get their questions answered before it comes before the council and we have our public hearing. That's part of the problem that the city had with the Lily Creek situation. The only public meetings that were held for the community were for those people directly along the ditch. There was some discussion that there would be public meetings by the city for other people in the watershed at some future point in time. And there were never any until Montgomery Soil and Water brought forward their sessions. And so it might behoove us to get in front of this one. So I'd like to see us consider doing that. Secondly, back in March when we were working on objectives for this year, one of the things I talked about was us taking a look at doing a demonstration project at Center Flight for some of these residential buildings that we're acquiring. And I talked about the village of Kimmswick in Missouri has a little retail area that works out of houses that they acquired. And the council chose not to do that because, for various and sundry reasons, they talked about maybe doing it somewhere else, such as over in Wright Point, maybe near where Shopping as you know, Forest City's not in a lead position from a development standpoint. And it might be time to take a look at doing something over there, in addition to having good folks from NAI helping to site a building, an office building there, because if you've been looking in the local newspaper over the last couple of weeks, you've seen one article about the city of Dayton trying to bring housing into the downtown area. One of the outfits that's bringing housing to downtown Dayton is the Sims folks, who are putting in some housing there along Patterson Boulevard near the ballpark, and being very successful at putting in townhouses. We know that in the grand plan that Forest City brought forward for Center Flight, there is a housing component. One of the discussions that took place at the last council meeting was that the reason why some of the retail wouldn't work well in this particular area, the Center Flight right now, is because there aren't enough rooftops to support retail. Well, if we have a housing component identified in the grand plan, then maybe as part of doing some demonstration projects, we contact some folks like Sims or whoever, it doesn't matter to me who the developer is, and see about putting some housing in there to get things going. Secondly, if you follow what else is going on with our friends at the City of Dayton, there's an article about downtown Dayton looking for pop-up shops. And what they're talking about there is the city providing some incentive programs to get retailers to fill the first floor space in some of the office buildings in downtown Dayton. One of the things, again, that I've brought up several times as far as putting a coffee shop or something on the ground floor of buildings in Wright Point, and it just hasn't taken off, and maybe the city can come up with some kind of incentive program, because this evening we just passed an incentive program, providing some incentives to Mr. Ivanhoe's company, Ivanhoe, and I think that's a good thing to do, because we did that with InfoCision as part of attracting them and getting them to come here instead of going somewhere else. And most recently, one of the things that you probably saw in the paper was the article about food trucks and how food trucks are starting to appear. And we've had food trucks in downtown Dayton at Courthouse Square. You see food trucks at street fairs on the weekends when you go downtown, or you go to other places. You can go to the Yellow Spring Street Fair, and they've got a dozen food trucks. And Center Flight is just a great place to try something like that. So I hope we take a look at coming up with some kind of demonstration program to show that we can put things in place on the city side, and they will work, and they will serve as catalysts and magnets to draw other types of businesses and revenue to the city. And finally, I'm sorry people are disappointed that I take the position I do on these signs. I've often wondered for a long period of time, which vote is it that really defeats a vote on an issue? Is it the first vote that takes place, or is it the last vote? The first person voting or the last person voting? Well, the reason something failed isn't because there are 6 people in the room or 5 people in the room. It's because the majority of the people in the room who are voting on something decide they don't want that thing to pass. And so I appreciate everybody's interest, my well-being, and my thoughtfulness on approaching these sign issues, but I'm just going to stay here and do the people's work and try and do it in a legal manner. So those are my comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone want to respond? Okay, next thing is, okay, any other comments? All right, I just have a few. Again, we had a great in-crowd. Thank you, Lynn, for doing that. Mr. Smith and I welcome General Moore and Colonel Barlow to Wright Pat, at the Wright Pat Club. It was a very good time, and we're really building those relationships with the Wright Pat folks. Also went to a library meeting where they're trying to build some new libraries. So yeah, there's a lot more information coming about that. If anyone has questions about building the new libraries, they are asking us to pass a levy coming up in November so you will be hearing about that. So please study the issue very thoroughly and know what's coming up with that. And again, if you have any questions, I will try to answer them. We had a great festival again, wonderful festival, good parade, and the festival, from what I understand, went without a hitch. And that was very, very good. It was a good festival. Maybe next time we should have it in the center of Flower. Someplace like that where, or maybe we need to close a street somewhere like Beaver Creek and Kettering and Troy and all those folks do to make our festival grow. But it was a very, very good festival, and very pleased to that for everyone who came out. Did an oath of office for Officer Jessica Skinner. Skinner? Okay. She's our newest officer, police officer, so we welcomed her. And let me see, I think that is about it. I did about 6 weddings, so the weddings continue to be popular, and we continue to have them at the Wedding Connection or the Event Connection, and it seems to be moving along very well. So, okay, that's all I have.
Mr. Mayor, are you gonna mention anything about the closing of 444?
The closing of 444.
That briefing that you sent out, I thought that was.
Yeah, okay. Very good. Mr. Manager, would you like to take the roll on that?